Why would someone, in this case me, spend almost $100,000 on seminars, courses, and masterminds? Why would I do that? Well, I'm going to answer that question and hopefully answer it well. But you'll be the judge of that. So, I, uh, I've in an earlier live, I told the story about how I was the working homeless, essentially. Uh, in 2015, I was out of money, out of my business, and nothing that I was working on was working. I was working on this deal, that deal, nothing was coming together. So I ended up living in my car, and that sucked a lot. Um, and it was one of the most difficult experiences of my life. Today, I have some of the greatest appreciation for it, but wasn't fun at the time. And the there were, but that was just a symptom, it was a symptom of suffering that was kind of attached to a bigger problem. And so, the reason why I was in such a tough place in life was uh, I had sold my stake in my business back to my business partner. Um, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. Without getting into a lot of specifics and whatnot, that was not the deal I thought it was going to be, and I wasn't in a position to negotiate. I definitely didn't have I didn't have a lot of negotiating power at that point. So that didn't go well, and I got absolutely annihilated by my ex-wife in my divorce. And that was the hardest thing, because in that I lost not just custody of my children, but I actually the visitation, my rights to see my children were completely vacated, like they took them away. So that was for anyone out there that has kids, you'll appreciate that. That was the single most painful experience of my life. And I would say, that's was and is still to this day. That's the thing that by far was that hurt the most and took the longest to get over. I, um, you know, it was, I would, had a lot of time to think, being broke, homeless, and driving for Uber. And I would just sit there in my car and I would think about, I would think about my kids, or I would see like a picture or something. And I would just, I would go down this really um, like spiral, emotionally. And so I would just go to like, how did I fuck this up so much? And then, you know, how could I have failed myself and them so much? And and it wasn't like that every now and again I'd have those thoughts. It was like, 6, 8, 10 times, 20, 30 times a day. Right. And, and it was the most depressed I've ever been in my life. In fact, I haven't ever felt like that since. And, just was, it was, again, that was the hardest thing. And it wasn't like, it's like in business, you lose a deal, or job goes bad, a project goes bad, you lose a project, lose an employee or something, things go bad, like you get over it, right? You like can kind of bounce back. Even like having a bad year, losing a bunch of money. It doesn't compare to the emotional pain and just the torture of, that I put myself through as things like, because again, it didn't just happen, all of a sudden. It was a multi-year thing. So um, I was so when I kind of like started to when things started to pick up a little bit, and I like I said again in a previous live, um I got hired as an estimator in a masonry restoration business. The business I ended up running and almost bought, and but and that helped a lot because it certainly helped to have a little bit of make a little bit of money and have a little bit of money. But there was still there wasn't that did not mend that sort of like hole that was in here, from what had happened with my kids. And it was not a situation that was going to change. And to be perfectly, sort of very transparent here today with you guys in our group, still to this day, I still have visitation. Now I talk to my kids all the time. I am talking with my ex about going down and seeing them in the next couple of months. So, there's been some progress, albeit very slow, but, it's, um, it took it took a long time to, you know, think through that and like process what had happened. So, why would I spend $96,000 on basically self help and personal growth and development? Well, I'll tell you. So that's why, because even after I had kind of plugged into a business as an estimator, and then was able to use some of my skills to do a lot of other creative and productive things, I was still like hurting a lot. And, and I just decided, I mean, when you go that low and you're, again, at the place where I was where, and I didn't get into this and maybe in a future live, but I mean, I was, Christmas Day of that year, 2015, I was very close to taking my own life, and, kind of planned it out, and, had, um, you know, was in a very dark place. And um and so after sort of like, again, like things starting to work a little bit professionally, and me kind of deciding I want to pick myself up, and I don't want to live like this. I don't want to, I don't want to live at this low state. I mean, again, only at that point I had to move in with my parents, and because I couldn't afford an apartment, I had to move out of my apartment in Chicago. So I didn't want to go back out on the streets. So anyway, so for me, it was when I was at my lowest, and those thoughts of like, how could this have happened, and how could you let your kids down, and when those things, like after just being tortured with those for you know 3-4 years, I just decided that's enough, and I don't want to live like this, and I don't want to feel like this anymore. And but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't, it's not like, I mean, I know there's a lot of, I mean, I realize that, on Facebook and Instagram, and I mean, of course, we here have solutions for you, for contractors. And, I realize there's a lot of stuff out there. But, in 2015 and 16, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how do you, where do you turn to, figure out how to like turn your life around. I didn't know where to go. And again, I realize there's resources. I didn't, it was all very overwhelming. So, um, when I was in those low places, I had a handful of friends that were amazing and like family to me. And one of my really close friends that I've known for since I was 20, and I'm 47. So we've known each other a long time. He was, he literally would call me every day. I mean, again, love this fucking guy. He's like a brother to me. And just to check on me, because he knew, I mean, at that point I was on the other side, so I wasn't suicidal anymore, um, but I was struggling, and again, I was living in an apartment I couldn't afford before I moved back with my parents. And so, anyway, so we would talk a lot. His name is Josh. So Josh and I would talk a lot. And, he had gone to a couple of Tony Robbins seminars, and we had actually worked together professionally on some deals and things like that. After he had gone to those, before, a couple of years before all this kind of went down in my life. So Josh would talk to me about Tony and about, this, Tony, here's something that Tony talks about. Here's something that Tony, here's something I learned from Tony Robbins. Here's something else I learned from, and a lot. And really, and when I was like killing it, I was a business owner. I had this great life and everything. And when I was killing it, it didn't really land. But when I was low and trying to figure things out, and like, maybe some of you have been here. So the place I was in, even after things were kind of like improving, but like, it was like, how do I describe it? Like, I would think like I things were it was like my life was cratering and I didn't know what to do to change it. Looking back on it, I can see now pretty clearly, but when you're in the middle of things, sometimes like you don't have that like that 360 vision, right? And so I didn't know. I had written like pages and pages of journals and like tried to map and the patterns of my life and see where I fucked up. And I did not know what to do. So, and I didn't know, and I certainly, and it was so painful, again, losing my kids, losing everything that I had, selling my business for my share in the business for a lot less than it was worth, and all this stuff. I didn't ever want to go through that again. The pain was so great. I didn't ever want to go through that again. So, spending, hours and hours talking to Josh when I was, again, I had a room for a couple of months in early 2016. So I would talk to him after I stopped driving for Uber for an hour or something. And he would just tell me these different, like, give me these different, strategies, things that he learned from Tony Robbins. And all of a sudden I'm thinking like, this Tony Robbins guy, like he's got some of this shit figured out. And so anyway, so I had to move back with my parents because I couldn't afford that apartment. We're now in June of 2016. Josh, the same guy, had, well, I want to be careful my time here, but so I'm going to tell this story. So Josh, again, one of my closest friends, like a brother. So I'm driving for Uber one morning, and I had some status as a successful banker in Chicago. And so I had a reputation of being a successful banker. And now I'm driving for Uber, and I am humiliated and I'm terrified that I'm going to pick up someone that I know. So, and I knew a lot of people in Chicago. I lived there at that point for almost 15 years. So, I'm terrified I'm going to pick someone up I know. So if I'd see a name of like someone I knew really well from JP Morgan or in the industry or someone I had known socially, I accept the ride, then would immediately cancel the ride. But I couldn't, I knew a lot of people, so I'm canceling a lot of rides. So I had to eat. So one morning I accept a ride, name pops up. It's a name of someone that I know pretty well, but it's Chicago. There's 8 million people or whatever. So again, I had to eat, so I had to accept these rides. So I'm driving up to the building. It's north side of Chicago, just outside of like the financial district. And it's not one person I know, it's two people I know. And it's not just people I know, it's my former assistant at JP Morgan and one of the guys on my team at JP Morgan that they had actually met when they worked together on my team. And I see them and I panic. So I like simultaneously turn, like there was a building right next to theirs at a semicircle drive. I hit the semicircle drive, cancel the ride, and drive the other way. And call Josh as I'm doing that, like tell him what happened, because I am freaked out. Like I'm just like, oh my God, dude. Like this is, to me, that was, and again, maybe I sound like a pussy now. But I'm just saying, like that to me, that was it. Like I was like, this is crazy, So I was so humiliated that my former assistant, I would be driving her to her job. By the way, to a job that I helped her get. Like I introduced her to the CEO of the commercial bank of the bank she went and worked for, and she deserved it. I mean, she obviously got the job on her own. She was brilliant and talented, and just fabulous. She's great. But I had introduced her to the guy that ended up hiring her. So I just like, this is crazy. So I call Josh and I'm like, dude, how you give me anything to do, anything that uses my skills beyond, my ability to get around this town I've lived in for a decade and a half. And so he's like, well, he was buying properties from investment properties, and he was doing what's called assignment. Some of you probably know what that is, but some of you probably do it. So, and he's in Nashville. So he had made a lot of money doing this. And I was like, fine. And so he gave me the login credentials, and I got back that day and I started cold calling, what is this? I can't remember what they call them, but anyway, property owners in sort of the greater Nashville area. So fast forward to the few months later, and it's June of 2016, and I have no so I had actually lined up cold calling for Josh. I had lined up, I want to say it's 3 deals, and had he bought them and then assigned them, he would have sold them like to a developer or contractor to development. I would have commission of right around 30, 35, 40,000. I think between 30 and 40,000, depending on what he would have been able to, get when he assigned the deals, like what the contractors or developers would have paid. So I was like pretty excited about that because I hadn't had more than $100 in my checking account for who knows how long. So the idea of having 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or $30,000 was pretty exciting to me. So I thought, okay, but those deals they hadn't closed, and I'm still driving for Uber, and I couldn't afford my apartment. So I moved back with my parents in Western Pennsylvania because I think, okay, I'll save the money and I'll make this, 20, 30 grand. I'll pay my, the guy I was subletting from in Chicago, I'll make him whole. And at least I can maybe Josh and I can work on some more deals. I can go to Nashville. At least I got a little bit of cash. I'm not like strangled. So I moved back with my parents, and then all 3 deals fall apart. Every one. So now I'm in a rinky-dink dying town in Western PA, not Pittsburgh, not Erie. I'm in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Some of you might know where that is, which is like an hour north of Pittsburgh. And there's nothing there. There's no Uber there. So now I can't drive for Uber. So I'm thinking, do I go to Dunkin' Donuts and get a job? Like, I don't know anyone I can do like an investment deal with. So I'm sitting in this room in my parents' house, and I'm just like, this sucks, and I'm defeated. I'm deflated because I've been, fighting so hard to try to come back. And, I'll say this at the time. So I had been fighting for probably like the fall of 50, because I really kind of fucked around until like the fall of 2015. I started getting serious and like changing some things about the way I was living my life. And because I wasn't exactly like, I wasn't living, I was not living a productive life. I was, I'll say that. So, so I kind of like, kind of got my shit together a little bit in terms of just like not doing stupid stuff in the fall of 15. And, but that like that fall and the next spring, I mean, it felt like a decade, because again, I wasn't used to, not just failing, but like living in this like belly of fucking failure. So I'm back in my parents' house. They, of course, are amazing, and they're, supportive. But I mean, I feel like a failure that I can't even afford. I literally had like $17 or $18 in my checking account. I couldn't even afford to like buy myself groceries. So my parents are buying more groceries. They're retired, and they're supporting me. And I'm 40 fucking years old, 41 actually. So, it was humiliating. So, but I remembered Josh talking about Tony Robbins. And I remembered how I thought this guy, I mean, all the stuff that he had said, and everything made sense. And it seemed to apply to like, it seemed like it could, like it could help. So I was talking to Josh one day, again, after all these deals fell apart, and he's like, well, he sends me Tony's Awaken the Giant Within. It was a free ebook. Still is, actually. And he sends that to me. And he's like, here, he's like, read this. Because I couldn't afford Tony's courses or our events. And the events are, anywhere from 500 to like 10,000. And I obviously couldn't afford that. And in fact, Josh had gifted me an event, an amazing event that I've now gone to 3 times, and I couldn't even go. The end of 15. Had I known what I know today, I would have basically begged my parents for the money to lend me to go to, for travel and lodging. But anyway, so I start reading Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. And I'm reading. I probably got 35, 50 pages. I'm not a fast reader. Some of you may relate to that. I love reading, but I'm not fast. So sometimes it feels like it's going really slow. So I audio read actually a lot today. So I'm like, this is too slow. So I go on to YouTube and I start watching Tony Robbins videos. And that is where things started to change. So I'm watching this one video, and it's not even him like on stage. It's him in this interview with someone I've never heard of before. And she's asking him like, what are, like, how do you help people and blah, 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 blah. And he says, it's not the events or the things that happen to us in life that bring us joy or bring us pain. He said, it's the meaning we assign to those things. And I was like, whoa. Hold on a second. And I, rewound it on my laptop, and I played it again. It's not the events, circumstances of life that bring us joy or pain. It's the meaning we assign to them. And so I played it like 6, 8 times. Again, just listening to it, like going, hold on a second. Hold on. So I stopped the video and I was like, if that's true, then all of this pain that I'm, at this point, probably self-inflicting on myself. And of course I miss my children. There's that too. I love my kids. I have 3 amazing children, Pearson, Sophia, and Ava. Amazing. If that's true though, then I don't have to feel like this. And if I didn't feel like this all the time, like the wheels started turning. I was like, things would be different. Like, cause I mean, again, anyone out there has gone through hard stuff. I mean, we all do. You're not productive when you're feeling like that. I mean, you're certainly not living your best life. You're not productive. And it just sucks, So that that floored me. So I go to bed that night and just like rolling this over. It's not the events in life. It's the meaning we assign to them. I can assign a meaning, so I can choose what this feels like. That, that was like, I mean, we do it every day, but I'd never thought about it like intentionally. So I wake up the next morning and I'm thinking about that first thing. And I thought to myself, well, if that's true, then what meaning would I assign to this pain I feel about losing my kids, not being able to see my kids like I want? And it just like, boom, just like came through me. And I said out loud to myself, I said, my kids are amazing. I'm the luckiest dad on the planet. And the next time I see them, on that day, I'll be having the best day of my life. And then I thought a little bit more. I thought, if I even think about them on that day, I'll be having the best day of my life. And that shift, doing that and making that decision, like that began to change my experience of when I would, like, what would happen when I would think about them. So instead of thinking about them and like self mutilating myself in my mind, I started going, I started saying that thing, sometimes out loud, sometimes in my head, depending on where I was or what was happening. But I would just say that again. My kids are amazing and I'm the luckiest dad on the planet. And the next time I see them on that day, I'll be having the best day of my life. And that was the beginning of what's been a several year journey. And I thought to myself, after I had that experience and watched, from a 4 minute, or 4 or 14 minute video, Tony Robbins video that I didn't pay anything for. And because I immediately started to feel different. And it was like, I thought I had this power that I didn't realize I had. I can just change ways. I mean, so even if a bad thing happens, I don't have to feel bad about it. Like I was like, mind blown. So I said to myself at this point, again, I have no job. I still have no job. In fact, I didn't tell anybody this, even Josh, but I thought to myself after that video, I was like, my job is to watch this guy and to watch every last video he or anybody else has ever published about him ever. Because if I can get that kind of result, like in here from that, what else is possible? And so I just started like watching hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And it was 2 weeks after that I got the call from the guy that would hire me, that I would come in, turn his business around, and almost buy it last year. So that's why I've spent $96,000 on courses, seminars, and masterminds. A lot of it with Tony Robbins, because the work that I've done from the stuff he teaches has transformed my life. I have an amazing partner. We're not married, but we might as well be. My wife. We have an incredible relationship that is like 100%, 90% attributable to, we both have done a lot of work with like Tony stuff around relationships. And, so, it's one of those things that, and I'd actually planned on talking about something completely different today, but thought maybe I would tell those stories because that's why I spent the money. And that doesn't even include, when Jay found me as a construction CEO, you know, the company spent, I was like, this guy has it. And that doesn't even include, the money that we spent, getting help from Jay. So, I mean, that's obviously a much more substantial, you know, makes it a much more substantial sum. So that's why I spent the money. And was it worth it? 100%. In fact, I just had a conversation with my account representative at the Tony Robbins, team Tony Robbins, about doing an event this fall, and, I mean, like, I don't want to mess with anybody's beliefs here. This is not, I'm certainly not, I mean, I don't work for Tony. I don't make any money on anyone going to any events or buying any of his stuff. It's just, it's the one thing that I've done that has had the most impact, period, full stop, in my life. And so, it's not just, we haven't just attended. I mean, I've gone to now, I want to say 10 events. I've probably attended 5 and volunteered at 5, maybe 11, maybe 12. I'm not sure exactly what the count is, but I've done a bunch. So I basically did 2 a year for like 6 years. And I have all of his courses, and have done 6 or 7 of them, like 3, 4. Some of them I've done like 6 or 8 times because they're just so practical. And again, I mean, it made me I became a better CEO, I just became a better operator. I figured things out a lot faster when I was running the masonry business because of Tony's work and because of my commitment to like applying it to my life. And it's again, I can't imagine life without. In fact, I've thought about like what's been my return on investment, and it's hard to even say. I mean, not just the quality of my life in terms of like stuff, but and cash and such, but it's where the experience I have in here, and in here is dramatically different today because of the work I've done. And I'm going to share one thing. I try to keep these to 30 minutes, and I'm right there. I'm going to share one final thing that I still use to this day. One of the things that Tony teaches is that the power of questions, and how questions, because we get these, like we don't choose them, right? Like I stopped judging myself for the thoughts that I have, because like it's not like I go out and pick those thoughts. Most of the time they just show up, right? You ever think about that? So, so when I get, a thought that's discouraging or frustrating or makes me angry or sad or whatever, I still want to feel those emotions because emotions are messages, but I want to stay there, right? And so there are two questions that I've used a lot, particularly when when the business was losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I was leading the charge on losing all that money. So there were two questions that I used over and over and again to get myself out of this like down, like sad, angry, frustrated place. Because again, you're not productive if you're staying there, and it just sucks to feel that way. So the first question, and the one that like this is like the ripcord. So if you're in a bad place and you can't get out, this is the ripcord. And I promise you, if you ask this question to yourself 3 times, you will start to change the way you feel. Okay. And you can literally do it in like less than a minute and a half. And that question is, so when I'll give you a story. So I was driving back from a job that was like in Bumblefuck. It wasn't really, it was like an hour it was like 45 minutes from the shop, but it was like an hour and a half from where I lived. And it sucked, and I should never have bid the job, but I did. And we were going to get kicked off the job. So I'm driving back, and like another failed job for me. And it wasn't just a small one. It was a $380,000 job. So it was expensive, and business didn't have it. So I'm driving back from that job, and the customer was really unpleasant. that sort of like added to the frustration. So I'm driving back from this job and feeling like, man, I've fucked it again, and like just not wanting, it's like, and really starting to believe like I'm not going to be good at this. Cause I mean, I had some successes. I had some jobs that like we had crushed it, but the failures were far outweighing the successes. And so it's like, I hadn't figured out how to replicate the stuff that was working yet. And so I'm driving back from this job, and I'm just like, this sucks. And I had felt that way day after day after day. I'd actually cut stone as a labor on that job just to try to help catch it up. Anyway, which by the way, if you ever cut stone, the slurry, it's a hell of an experience. Anyway, those of any masons out there know what I'm talking about. Like cutting like literally like thousands of pounds of limestone with anyway. So I'm driving back, and I'm just like, this sucks. And I was like I was sick and tired of feeling like that. And I remembered this question, right? And I'd used it, but I was like, I don't want to ask the fucking question. But I was like, and here's the question. And so I said this to myself. I said, what would I have to believe to continue feeling this way? And I had used this question at that point for probably like almost 2 years. And because I learned it from Tony, right? Early on. And the first answer from my brain kicks out is like, whatever, just stop. And then I know to ask it again. What would I have to, and I'm saying this out loud to myself as I'm, driving back home. What would I have to believe to continue feeling this way? And it's like that brain's like, shut up. I'm not playing this game with you. I'm like having this like argument with myself. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. So I ask it again. Usually I get it on the third time. What would I have to believe to continue feeling this way? And so then I answered, my brain answered. So I said that, and then I answered myself. I said, well, I'd have to believe that I'm just not going to figure it out. I would have to believe and then, so then I would prompt myself, what else would I have to believe? Would I have to believe that, you know, I just wasn't cut out for construction? Well, what else would I have to believe? Well, I'd have to believe that, all the success I've had up to this point, and at that point, I'm 42 years old and I've been in business since I was in my early 20s. I'd have to believe that all of that was just bullshit, right? I'm just really not the talented, skilled, operator that I thought I was. What else would I have to believe? I'd have to believe that, like, I'm not going to figure this out. What else would I have to believe? I have to believe that, like, that I'm going to stay here and I will let this failure be the thing. What else would I have to believe that I'm not going to learn from this? What else would I have to believe? I have to believe that I won't actually fucking figure this out. And as I'm saying this, just like I'm kind of getting jacked up talking to you here, like I'm starting to like say these things and I'm realizing, fuck that. Like, and then I ask myself, is that true? Of course it's not true. Of course it's not true. Am I going to let this job, that, cranky customer be the thing that like puts me in the commercial grave? Hell no. And so as I'm driving down this little 2-lane road, heading back to Pittsburgh, I'm fucking like jacked up. I'm like, absolutely not. And all of a sudden I go from like verge of depression to like, I 100% will learn from this. And I did, because that fall is when that was fall of 2018. That's when I figured out like the model, like basically built my customer blacklist, which I'll share some other time, like all the people I refused to bid to. Right. And some of you might have the same kind of thing, which led me to my dream customer. So I figured out like all the things, like basically like my big blacklist, like of work I will not bid under any circumstance, and figured out like the patterns to what was costing us money and what was making us money, and then went on and like made almost $1 million the next year in net profit, and then made over $1 million the next year, and then made, I don't know, $600,000 or $700,000 the next year. So we made a bunch of money over the next 3 years. And I was at this place where I almost like I was ready to quit. Okay. Here's what's in that question. What's in that question is this: what would I have to believe to continue feeling this way? So first of all, it's okay to feel pissed off. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel angry, sad. It's okay to feel bored, right? I feel all these things, oftentimes all of them in the same day. I let myself feel those things, but that's why I ask, what would I have to believe to continue feeling this way? Because it's okay to get the message, right? If I'm feeling frustrated, there's a reason for that. And so maybe there's something I should do to change the thing that's making me frustrated, right? So it's a message, I can learn from it. But to stay frustrated or angry or pissed or whatever isn't healthy, right? It's not, I mean, even what's happening chemically in me is not good. So I don't want to stay in that place. That's why I ask what I have to believe to continue feeling this way. And then by asking what I have to believe, of course, I don't believe those things. I don't believe I'm not going to, I mean, I learned from every failure. In fact, failures have the most information that I can use in them, right? So I actually want to fail. I don't mean there's certain limits I want on the failure, but like I want to do things wrong because that's how I learn. So of course so all these questions I'm asking, the thing is you're asking yourself, what would I have to believe? And then, this is part of you that's like, well, that's not me. Because the things you would have to believe to continue feeling are not who you are. And that's the power in that question. So the thing I'm going to leave you with today is, if you're feeling, and you don't have to be like in a dark place like I was, you could just be, feeling something again for like the umpteenth time, right? Those kinds of things, those things that like keep showing up. So, if you're tired of feeling that way, ask yourself the question. I challenge you. What would I have to believe to continue feeling this way? And the first two answers you're going to get from your brain are going to be like, fuck this. They're going to be, they're not going to, you're not going to, your brain will not answer the question. The third or fourth time, you have to do 4 or 5, the first couple times, then you'll start getting a real answer. What would I have to believe? I have to believe that I'm not going to, or I won't, or I'm not. You'd have to believe things that aren't true. So it was things like that I've learned and applied to my life. And so, today, a lot of shit can go really, 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 really wrong for me. And it doesn't land the way it used to. Now, I'm not homeless or anything, obviously. I'm sitting in my home office here. And certainly my economics are substantially better than they were. But, like, even though all that outward stuff is better, like, you can still be waging a war in here. And I don't wage the same war I used to. And a lot of that is the money that I spent, not on Tony Robbins or Michael Singer or, some of these other folks that I've done their courses, books, seminars, etc. But it's, for me, I made the decision to invest in myself. And by making that what seems like a selfish decision is actually a selfless decision, because today I'm a better husband, partner. I'm a better dad. I'm a better, I was a better employee. I was a better leader. I was a better, operator, salesperson. I was all those, I was better in every way by investing, because I invested in myself and by investing in myself. And it's an unlimited return, because I still get benefit from the very first Tony Robbins event I went to, and the very first, that very first experience of watching him on YouTube. I go back to that often, and for different reasons, right? Sometimes it's just for gratitude. Sometimes, like, man, what a beautiful gift. I'll ask myself, like, what would today, July 2023 Adrian have given to have, like, I'm sorry, it's a reverse. What would July of 2016 Adrian have given to have July of 2023 Adrian's problems? The answer is, geez, he probably would have given like a vital organ or, anything, right? Would have done anything to get out of that, given anything to have my problems, not my life, my quality of life, my problems, the worst stuff, right? So the message here is, I'm not saying go out and spend $100,000. And there were sacrifices I made too, because I was making some money, but it was a lot of like, my partner and I lived very lean, and we didn't go on a vacation for, oh man, I don't even remember. It was a while, 2020 maybe. So like, we didn't go on a vacation we were together. 16, we got together, 17, 18, 19. Yeah. So we were together 4 years before we went on a vacation. Because we invested, she had actually just gone through divorce too. So we both had some tough life stuff, and we invested in ourselves. And so instead of spending money to go sit on a beach and, drink margaritas or whatever, we took that money and we invested in ourselves. Again, a lot of it with Tony Robbins. And then only after, kind of like turning our life. And again, I'm not saying this is the way to do it, but this is the way we did it. We made sacrifices, and, that worked, right? Because again, we have an amazing relationship. The stuff that I've been able to do professionally, a lot of it is because of, where I live in here. Right. So, I hope that helps, because I don't just want to come in here and talk about, construction strategies and, Jay and I talk about that stuff every Friday, and it's great. And, we've got a ton of value to bring on when it comes to strategies and processes and systems and tools and all that stuff. It's literally coming out of our ears. But I also want to, because we're all human, right? Whether you're an owner, leader, if you're an owner, you're still a, you're still potentially a husband or a son or a father or a friend, right? So we're all human first. And so I want to also, share some of that stuff because I did go through some pretty awful things but, you know, have the gift today of being able to, one, have a different, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't mean the same thing. I learned how to change the meaning of these things. And like, today, I mean, I'll give you a present example. So it's 12:47 Eastern. My son and I are going to get on Fortnite. We both got Microsoft Game Pass, and we're going to play Fortnite in about an hour and a half. And, you know, just get on the phone, get on FaceTime and play for an hour, hour and a half. And then we'll probably watch, do a group watch on Disney Plus, and we'll probably watch the new Secret Invasion that's out. That's right now on Disney Plus. So, and it's beautiful. It's great. I love, and I'll probably talk to my daughters later this week. And again, knock on wood, possibly even see them in the next month or so. So, and I'm grateful for all of that. Right. So anyway, so for those that have hung out, I've seen the attendee numbers bouncing up and down here during the live. So, and I went a lot longer than I normally do, but I felt like that was something I wanted to share with everybody. So, for those of you that watched this live, thank you. It does mean a great deal to me. For those of you that showed up, for those of you seeing a replay, that's just as good. Just as long as you see it. And like I always say, I'm here every Monday at noon, but these are on replay. If you watch live, let me know. Like I think it's Rob. Was it Rob Very that done that, and someone else? I don't have to pay more attention. Did that dropped a comment live. That's actually very cool. So if you see it, if you see this live, just drop a comment live. If you're watching on a replay, let us know. Let me know you're dropping on or watching on a replay. And you know, if you know, if you're curious about that path, or have some tough stuff you're going through, again, I don't work for Tony. I'll be happy to point you in the right direction, or just kind of share more stuff about some of this, because it's been next to like experiencing the beauty and the peace of some of these things that I've experienced by doing the work, and again, a lot of it with Tony Robbins and his people. The next most satisfying thing is like helping others, that are you know also looking for solutions, or also looking to like get out of pain. So anyway, you can drop me a comment, DM, whatever, and happy to have a conversation with anybody that wants to talk about that stuff, or drop a comment, whatever. Drop a comment, drop a DM. But so anyway, I'll be back here next week, Monday, 12 noon Eastern. And Jay and I are live again every Friday, where we're going through like the strategies, the plays, the stuff that he's used to build a 8-figure roofing business that dominates in Toronto, the stuff that I used to turn around a mason restoration business that was headed for bankruptcy or insolvency. So anyway, we love it when folks show up. We love the comments, and again, we're here to serve. So again, everybody that was on today, thank you. Drop a comment if you want to chat about this more, or if you want to hear more about something, or about a certain thing that I'm talking about. Any feedback at all, it's all good, and I appreciate all of it. All right, thanks everybody, and I'll see you next week.